we want to get the best, I'm telling you right now, that person is working for somebody else, not you, and it's up to you to go and headhunt them. How old are you going to be before you start to experience life like you want it? I want to tell you right now, whether you like it or not, there is a better way to do business. Hi everyone, welcome to the Business for Builders podcast. My name is Max. I'm your host. I'm the CEO here at Smith & Sons Canada, and I'm also the founder of EliteBusinessAdvisory.com. Great to have you along for the ride. Again, if you're a first-time listener and you've just dropped in, I appreciate you checking us out. And if you're a long-time listener, I appreciate your hanging in there. And I'm really loving the feedback that I'm getting. It is my oxygen, as Gary Vaynerchuk would say. Again, one of these drops every week. Like and subscribe. And look, if you want to get across to Business for Builders VIP, that's a Facebook group where there's a bunch of general contractors and builders, and I think there's even apprentices in there, which is great, where we can just have some conversation and ask some questions. I'd encourage you to get over there and talk amongst yourselves, because I do enough talking here. But it's a really great place where it's a safe place where we can just chat about some challenges that we're having. And obviously, if you put out something and nobody responds, I will be sure to jump in and try and give you a bit of a heads up, because that's what I'll do. Now, just on that, it's really important, because you know what, guys and gals, you do drop questions in emails, which I love. Max@EliteBusinessAdvisory.com. Shoot me an email. Happy to respond. But really the benefit is, and I might actually start grabbing a couple of these questions that I've got on email and putting them into that group, because that's what I want. Guys, the thing is, if you ask a question of me on an email, fine. But I tell you what, you're going to help a few other people, because it's probably odds on someone else has got the same question in their mind. So if you were to ask that in Business for Builders VIP, that means you're not just helping yourself, because then maybe I'll respond, maybe someone else will respond, but you're also then putting it out as a resource, but other people can go, oh yeah, I was thinking about that last week. That's a great question. I really appreciate the answer. That's what that group's about. So I think I've just got a bit motivated about actually grabbing some of the questions, and I hope people don't mind if maybe I won't mention it. Maybe I'll just put it out as a question that was emailed to me perhaps, and then the answer that I might have provided on that. So that's a good group to be a part of. As usual, we want to really give you some really thick content, some things that you can really take away under your arm and implement straight away. And, I think that is the upside. What I try to do in the podcast is not be so vague and, grey that you go, I kind of got what he was saying. He was going in that direction, but I really didn't get anything I can execute off the back of. I don't believe in doing that. And of course, if it does provoke some of that response, you go, Max, you didn't quite nail that. What was that about? You didn't get to, something, then I'm happy to sort of converse with you at that level. But really what I want you to do is to be able to cotton on to some of these principles and fundamentals and practical steps around really improving you and your business as a means of, helping you create, more profit and a better lifestyle. That's sort of where we're going. So today I'm going to address the challenges that are related to time, team, and money. Okay, super basic. I think we're going to cover off, obviously, a couple of guides to how we overcome time challenges, team challenges, and of course, money challenges. So, if you've got some challenges in your life, obviously, we want to provide these really that are related to those subject matter, so that you can overcome them and really put them to bed as far as in your mind. I know what I've got to do. I've got a team challenge, so this is what I do. I've got a time or a money challenge. This is what I'm going to do. So, first thing we're going to talk about, how do we overcome time challenges? We've got to understand the time management challenge that we have. So, project delays are due to what? Unforeseen circumstances or issues. Okay, so what are they? Obviously, you might be trying to juggle multiple projects. That is going to create a bit of back pressure on your ability to get through the week and the month and get everything done. Obviously, inefficiencies in project scheduling and coordination, right? So that gives you a little bit of a context. That wasn't an exhaustive list, but it's just it alludes to some of the things in your life where you go, oh, I kind of know why I run into challenges as it relates to having enough time. And so we've just got to be, and this is again, it's an awareness. It's like, I have time challenges in my life because I'm inefficient in scheduling my projects and coordinating my projects and all of the parts that go into that. That it's like I'm really sloppy at, project management. Well, that means if your project management is inefficient, the time it takes you to manage a project every week and month is going to be a lot more than what it would be for me. Okay, so I'm going to get more done in a 7-day rotation than what you are. There's a good example. Okay, so some practical advice around that. It's like, okay, so if that is one of my challenges, we've got to have and lean on robust planning tools. Things or tools that are going to enable us to get a lot of things done in good time and accurately, because that in itself, that's what we call leverage. Okay. The more that we can get done in a sitting, let's say we're going to go, right, I'm going to spend an hour planning the next 6 months of my business life as per, each project. I'm going to do a Gantt chart on all of those. And then I'm going to start really overlapping that maybe on a spreadsheet where we have what we call a project start schedule. And it's like, okay, we're going to start a project in July. Right, that's going to go for 6 months. So July through to December. Are we going to finish in December? Probably not. Let's roll it over to January, right? And so then I look at, okay, how many jobs can I do at once? I don't want to put too much pressure or stress on my delivery infrastructure. So it's like, okay, on that project start schedule, that I got to ensure that I've only got 2 jobs happening at once, because if those jobs are worth $100,000 each, then I can only handle 2 of those at once, right? So that becomes, very much you around. If I was to put a 3rd job on that, all of a sudden I'm back to having what? Time challenges. Management of my time now becomes by default, because I'm just running from firefight to firefight and everybody's screaming at me and they're short this and short that. And, so that intensity means you are in a state of chaos. You're not in a state of control. So robust planning tools, we've got to have the ability to prioritize tasks, right? We want to be able to use what we call the Eisenhower matrix. And that helps us distinguish between those things that are urgent versus those things that are important. And I'm going to touch on that Eisenhower matrix in the next episode. We want to focus on the high priority tasks that directly impact project timelines, and using those techniques will help us achieve that. Right. We want to improve our communication. So establish clear communication channels with clients, subs, team members to ensure everyone's on the same page regarding timelines and expectations. So, I think we want to improve the communication, and we're going to do that via or from introducing systemization. So if we are going to improve communication, we're going, okay, the goal is to communicate better with all of the stakeholders, right? How are we going to do that? So, if I've got a remote bookkeeper, I use a thing called Trello, okay? And my team uses that. The creative content team, even though they're in the office, one of those is remote. So we actually use that to be able to stay on the same page, literally. So we can go in, we can add attachments and files and photos, and we can make comments, and the most recent comment comes up as a notification via email. It also is on the dashboard. And so we can that level of communication is very clear and coherent. That is our go-to. Now, there might be the occasional text message, email, what have you, but the apex predator in our high-level communication is going to be a piece of cloud-based software that everyone can get access to, not just on a PC, but on an app as well. And that's super important that we've got that integration. And we've got that access. So that's further to improving the communication activity. We want to have a good foundation on how we're going to do things as it relates to communication. Now, mitigate risks. So we want to identify potential risk in the early part of the project and develop contingency plans to address them. We want to minimize the delays caused by unforeseen circumstances. I think when I was making these notes and thinking about these concepts, the thing, and I only just got off a client call this morning, and one of my biggest pet hates, or one of my biggest concerns with all of my clients and all of my franchisees, and even myself in my building company, is that the potential for you to lose everything that you've worked hard for can happen as a result of your inability to mitigate risks as it relates to safety on your job sites. Now, as much as we're talking about overcoming time challenges, I just want to pivot for a second and go deep on, guys and gals, you can work hard, build a $5 million business, create a good 10% net profit at the end of the year. The challenge is that you can then have all of that blown up because somebody walked onto your job site on a weekend and they end up falling into a trench and there was a bit of rebar sticking out and they ended up hospital critically ill. Like, your only defense in that situation is that you have displayed a high level of professionalism and systemization and notification around safety measures, And so some guys would say on some of these, when I say smaller job, $150,000 job, it was on a corner lot, and I was building, let's call it a carriage house. It was a garage with a mezzanine floor, quite a large, plus a carport out the front. And, the first thing I did is get perimeter fencing up. 2 reasons. One, it keeps walkers' dogs out, because they'll get a dog that'll go into the job site and all of a sudden they're running around my job site chasing their frigging dog. And the other thing is I get to hang a bunch of signage on it. So remember, there will be a moment in time that is captured by investigating parties, and they will take pictures of everything because they want to be able to set the landscape as to what the project site looked like, okay? And so when you've got, for every second panel of fencing, and they're normally about 8 feet long, you've got a safety signage that basically prohibits entry, then you're doing everything you can to keep people out of that. So what I'm saying is we're talking about, managing our time challenges. Well, who wants to get caught up in elongated, stressful, costly investigation around something that if you had have taken the appropriate measures and implemented those measures, you would have saved yourself a lot of time, which is what we're talking about, okay? So, you need to really drill down. I guarantee you, don't care where you are, there'll be a governing authority in your province, in your state. There will be a website where there will be a bunch of information, okay? So you can find out what's the minimum requirements, what's best practice, that sort of thing. So guys, if you don't want to go and burn a bunch of daylight, focus on safety on your building site as a matter of priority. It's the first thing I do with site establishment or site prep, we call it. It'll be everything to do with safety, site safety, safety signage, perimeter fencing, making sure that everyone on site understands, making sure that there's notes. And this is something I've seen done and I've not done because I run a franchise organization, and I used to have directions to the hospital on the back of my site signs, so that there was at least there was an address to the nearest hospital. And so I need to be able to display a high level of confidence, because if there is an accident, we want to address it. We want to take responsibility for things that we could have done better, but we really want to get out the back of that investigation quickly and move on, because it's burning daylight and it's very unproductive, and there's certainly no money to be made over there. Mitigate risk. And the final thing there is to really regular progress reviews. So we want to conduct those progress reviews and site meetings to monitor the status of projects and address the issues promptly and adjust schedules as needed as well. Something else that could be introduced is that there's got to be performance reviews, because let's say you've got good systems and we're not getting the output. It's like, okay, there's a performance issue with an individual, right? Now, if there's a performance individual with an individual, but you haven't got the right systems in place, the onus is then on you. It's like you're actually bottlenecking your own business. You're the one we're getting the budgets for time are running over, and it's because you are not systemizing the business. And we talked about that in the last episode about the apprenticeship plan and how we actually we demonstrate and we involve, and then we get to collaborate with, and then we get to supervise. And then, of course, once that human is doing it the way that we want it done, in perpetuity, you've just invested there. So your return on investment gets greater and greater as time goes by. So regular progress on job sites, the reviews there are super important as well. Okay, team challenges. So it's interesting. We just finished there off on what we're doing with teams, but now inside of time challenges, now we're going to move into team challenges. So some of the challenges that you'll have might be in the areas of recruiting, retaining, and rewarding skilled labor. So I say to guys often, it's like the guy who is, let's call it your perfect team member. I know that's a stretch. I get it. But let's say, we want to get the best. I'm telling you right now, that person is now working for is working for somebody else, not you. And it's up to you to go and headhunt them. And I'd like to think that we can put ads out on Indeed or Seek or ZipRecruiter or whatever the case may be. But unfortunately, more often than not, we've got to really market towards, are you not happy in your current role? We need to put a stone in the shoe and then explain reasons why. So we want to be able to recruit well. And then, of course, we want to be able to onboard and train efficiently and really accurately, and be able to make it very clear as to what the expectation is. And then, of course, we want to retain those people. And a lot of the retention happens by way of rewarding people within the business based on, the performance of the overall business. So super important that we understand that. We want to be able to manage, some of the challenges might be that managing diverse teams with varying levels of skill and experience, and expertise, that's going to be a challenge. And of course, effective teamwork and collaboration. How do we bring that melting pot of talent together to be able to cohesively put out a very good product? So some practical advice around that is obviously invest in training and development. That kind of is a very bit of a cliche, I suppose. But we really want to provide ongoing training and development. So I think guys and gals, as business owners, questions are the answers. So we need to ask people, how do you feel about your level of skill, in your capacity as an XYZ, component of the team or the business? And that's really going to then help you understand what opportunities you need to make available for your team to be able to enhance their skills and, really keep them up to speed on industry best practices, right? Because we want our guys and gals to be delivering at the highest level. Fostering a positive work environment. This is how you're going to overcome team challenges, or an ingredient for sure. Create a supportive and inclusive work culture, that values teamwork. Like that's kind of, you can't have, we all know that we don't want someone in our business that's toxic. The challenge for us business owners is when you've got a high producer that's toxic. And you go, oh, Max, I don't really want to, I don't want to give him the flick or kick him down the road because he's such a good producer. But what he does is he brings the morale down, and that's something that's got to be thought about at the highest level, because really, we've got to have somebody that, is a team player. They value open communication, open, honest communication, as well as, employee well-being. That's really important, about wanting to come to work. I think gamifying a lot of things is always good fun. It makes work fun. And I think we've got to be able to, as a CEO, you do want to have good rapport building exercises with your team, but you've always got to maintain that level of professionalism, and that is a challenge, because you don't want to go too much the other way and get buddy, because someday in the future you may have to have that hard conversation with that individual, and you may or may not have a certain level of credibility that you need to be able to execute on that front. Right, we want to be able to delegate efficiently. So you want to assign roles to the right people. So, when we're in the process of recruiting, our focus is on, in our recruitment plan, is to have the right people get onto our bus, have them positioned in the right seat on the bus, and having them behave the right way. That essentially then allows us to be able to delegate, based on individual strengths and expertise, because we've got that org chart, or the organizational chart, or the organizational plan well developed. And then we want to empower team members to take ownership of their tasks. So I think the other downside, and I talked about this in the last episode, was the downside of micromanaging is that, well, Max is always going to tell me what to do, so I don't need to think. Well, so that really removes the power, because it's like, well, I don't need to use any of my initiative. I don't need to step up. I don't need to produce at the highest level, because Max is always, saying, what's happening now? What's happening now? What are you doing this? Go do this, go do that. And so that really isn't the transfer of power. Essentially, you're basically just giving them, the direction on what to do. So you're stifling the growth of that individual. And furthermore, I don't think it doesn't create a level of enthusiasm, because when you own something and there's a high level of responsibility attached to that ownership, that's something people can be proud of. And so it's really important that we make sure that we don't take that opportunity away for those people to become empowered. Okay. Right. Implement clear communication strategies. So we talked a little bit about this in the last one as well. So use tools like I mentioned, like Trello. Obviously, toolbox talks, can be important. I used to do a toolbox talk in this office, and that to me was as important as doing a toolbox talk on site. Obviously project management software as it relates to, what we're doing in and amongst the team. And I know that in some cases, if you've got software that's cloud-based, your team on site can access certain files and documents and things like that on your software. That helps the team, I guess, stay on the same page literally. and metaphorically, and that really helps in ultimate performance. The last one there is recognize and reward effort. So I talked about in the beginning that we want to recruit, retain, and then obviously reward. And we always want to acknowledge the hard work and the contributions of your team or of our teams through recognition programs. Incentives, and I think career growth opportunities is also important. Remember, folks, we all work for a paycheck, but there is something about recognition is that we would die for. And I think I've mentioned this ages ago on a podcast, but, if you've got kids, you'll know that Dad, watch this, and I've got teenagers that I think still do that. It's like, we all need a fan club. I think that's what I'm getting at. We're all humans. And, me and my boy, we race go-karts, on weekends here in this town, and none of us want to finish last, we watch at the end of the Saturday and the Sunday, because we basically do, 2 race meets, or race meet on Saturday and a race meet on Sunday. And, as much as the kids like to get up there a trophy, we all love to get up there and, show our first place trophy, put that on the shelf at home. And, I think that is just, we love to think that we are enjoying success. We want confirmation that we are, and then we can look back and be proud of that. And I think, for team members, maybe I haven't done it as well as I should. I can improve, and so can you. And so, again, this might be an awareness thing. You've never heard the comment that I made about people work for paychecks and die for recognition. We go and race those go-karts and it costs us thousands of dollars to do, and we get a $5 trophy. It's hilarious. But the whole club's there, So it's that moment of recognition where, now I'm starting to get some status and some recognition. And then I have a starter motor that shits the bed and I'm out for freaking Sunday. So I'm doing flag marshalling, and so there's those highs and lows. And I'm telling you guys, I think, we've got to enjoy the highs because it really helps us. We've got to really, have those highs, because when we go into those lows and the valley of despair, we call it, we've got to have a go. I can achieve off the back of this. This is not where I'm going. I say that valleys, it's something that we're going through. It's not where we're going to. It's not our destination. It's not our outcome. It's just something that we've got to grin and bear and really drive through it. Right. The last thing here is obviously money challenges. And so get ready, okay? Because you've heard this from me before, but we really want to understand, the financial management challenges. Obviously cash flow issues and maintaining liquidity. We want to make sure that we've got good operational capital, i.e., give me 3 months of your, running or your fixed expenses and I'll be happy. And then on top of that, we want to be putting expansion capital aside. And you're like, Max, you're out of your mind. I'm not making enough money to do that. And I'm like, okay, so then we have a pricing model issue. We have maybe a sales issue where we can't demonstrate the value and now we're competing on price. We maybe don't understand the power of a pre-construction agreement and how that can inject between 10 and 30 grand into your economy and your building company every year. So, that alone, if you were to do that for 12 months and you were to inject $20,000 off the back of pre-construction agreements, that could be your expansion capital for 2025. And so don't tell me it can't be done. It's not how much money you make, it's how much you keep. And keeping more money, but to be able to operate your business is all about managing those different ratios. And so, budget overruns, obviously that's going to gut your cash at bank. And of course, unexpected expenses. And I will just add to that too, if you're too top heavy, you've got to get rid of some people, you've got to get rid of some trucks, you've got to get rid of the office. There's an episode, I think it was episode How to Unbroke Your Business, was that 181? I think How to Unbroke Your Business really does give you good insight into what happens if you run your business too top heavy and you're spending more money than you make. That episode, How to Unbroke Your Business, will help you get a concept understanding of some of the fundamentals around bailing out your own business. If you're in too deep, you're going to have to go for some funding. That's the other way you're going to take care of some money challenges. Okay, some practical advice on top of what we just talked about. Right, create detailed budgets. Okay, so we want to make sure that we go, the first thing I'm going to say is what's your fixed expenses? This is easy. It's like, okay, Max, these are my fixed expenses. And odds on, more often than not, I'm going, that's a little bit low. I look around the landscape of your business and you're telling me you only spend $8,000 a month on running your business. Yeah, okay, let's drill down on that. So we really want to nail down a comprehensive budget, both personally and for the business, and obviously project budgets. They're created in the estimate. But if we're talking strictly about, budgets within projects, it goes back to, well, how are you estimating? What's your markup percentages? What's your profit margin goal at the end of the year? And we can really extrapolate the data. I mean, we've got, the key activity metric, the activity key metrics spreadsheet. We could literally fill in a hypothetical 12 months worth of activity, which would take a little while to really figure out, well, how much is my net profit going to be? Or how much is my GP going to be, and versus then, what are my fixed expenses? And so, really it's not going to be a surprise if we are budgeting, what we need on projects for our labor and materials versus our actual costs. What are my business running costs versus the enough gross profit out of those projects? And then am I paying myself $3,000 a month, which is clearly not what you get paid as a managing director or a president or a CEO of a company. And so our business is in shambles. And that's why it doesn't take me long to get to the root cause of why your business isn't performing at the highest level. Right, the next thing is, how do we monitor the cash flow? Well, we monitor the cash flow in three columns. We look at our fixed expense, what that is, and then we have our break-even point, and obviously our target billables for the month, which includes we're on our way to a 10% net profit, but then also we monitor what we're invoicing. So there's no point in having these goals as budgets, let's say, so our break-even and our target per month would be, we've then got to insert, okay, what actually happened this month? How many invoices did we put out? What was the cumulative total of those? So we've got to make sure that our income is good and invoices are prompt. I've talked about this before. Whenever you're invoicing client, please make the date due upon receipt. In other words, the minute I issue that invoice, it is now due, okay? Because if you give the clients 7 days, I guarantee you they'll take it, and they'll probably steal another couple of days as well. So we want to shorten up our payment terms as it relates to clients. Of course, we want to have, we should have some financial management systems in place, accounting programs and spreadsheets. I think cooperatively can work like we've got them working. My guys use, some of my guys use, Smith & Sons guys use QuickBooks, but I've got guys out in the field that anywhere between Xero and QuickBooks as well. And so that can help you what's happening in the business, but I'm trying to see around corners, and that's where, watching the activity of the business also helps me identify trends, both positive and negative, whereas sometimes in an accounting software, it's not going to give you that data with the clarity that we need it. The next thing is negotiate with suppliers. So we want to establish strong relationships with suppliers and negotiate favorable terms. Guys, I talk about the cash gap plan. So what we want to do, the cash gap plan is double-sided. It's like, I want to shorten the time it takes me to get paid by clients, and I want to maximize the time I have to pay suppliers. Now, I don't want you to be reckless or irresponsible with that credit or those terms, but you need to understand that if I have a client, and if you're running 2-line ball and the client's not paying me for that segment of work, and I've got invoices stacking up from suppliers and subcontractors, I'm going to find myself with some pretty, hot-headed suppliers and sub-trades that are going to want to get paid, and you can't because you've got a cash gap. So we want to have, for instance, most suppliers are 30 days, okay? So if you've got commercial credit terms, most of the time you're going to have to put a personal guarantee on that, guys and girls. Be aware of that. Get legal advice. You'll get a bill at the end of the month for all of your purchases in that month, and then you've got 30 days to pay, right? That can get guys into trouble because they go, I can't pay them by 30 days, and then they put them off, and now all of a sudden you've got your situation. If you can't pay your bills as they become due, you're borderline trading insolvent. Something's up. Now, that comes down to the cash gap. It's like, why is it taking me so long to get paid? Well, my invoices, I give clients 14 days to get paid. Are you out of your mind? That's ridiculous. Meanwhile, your sub-trades are giving you 7 days. Your subbies are like, oh, mate, you got to pay me in 7 days. Now you've got yourself a negative position, okay? So we want you to be mindful. So there again, it's just the awareness. It's like, well, okay, Max, what have I got pressure over here? And that is a gap in your process. Now we go to the root cause of that and go, okay, what can we do? Well, I've just outlined a couple of things that's going to help you do that. Okay, and so, so maximizing the speed at which you get paid, and then, of course, creating a little bit of distance between you and your due dates with your suppliers. Now, with sub-trades, and take this with a pinch of salt, this is just what I recommend and what I will be doing, is that if you're a subcontractor, you're going to invoice me on the 15th and I'm going to pay you on the 30th. And then you're going to invoice me on the 30th and I'm going to pay on the 15th. So, I know it's hard. It's like if you start a job on the 17th of the month, sure, you've got to work from the 17th to the 30th, and then you got to invoice, and then you get paid on the 15th. It's a big stretch. I get it. But I've got to stay in control. If I've got a guy that's that desperate, maybe he's not the right guy to be working for me as a sub. Think about that. Maybe it's a good qualifier. Maybe it's a good tripwire. But you decide. Right. You might need to secure some financing to just as bridging finance. You might have got yourself in a bit of a struggle. You might not have you might not be able to unbroke your business. Just by rolling the business forward and getting better at pricing, et cetera, you might have to go for some funding, and you might have to secure finance to be able to take some of the pressure off. Remember, I'm more interested in you, the human, than your company. Okay, so you make a choice. In some cases, there's commercial provisions in corporate law that allows you to close down your business based on lack of solvency or your ability to remain liquid, and that's because we need to have those legislations in place to save the human, because no business, no amount of money is worth losing a human over. And I've had experience in that sector where the pressure of the business got to a human, and now that human is not with us anymore. So please consider that. Just put your ego aside, okay? You'll live to fight another day. Trust me, okay? The final thing here, as it relates to money challenges, is review your financial performance regularly through your financial statements, performance metrics like we've just talked about. Identify areas for improvement and make informed decisions about resource allocation. So this is why, I like to start out with new business owners. Unfortunately, they probably are not as liquid as what they need to be. But, if I can just help them and help you perhaps understand some of these fundamentals, you'll make a lot of good decisions, little decisions in the early days that will help set you up, and you will create some bank, and then you can take the business from stride to stride in a very secure, confident, and solid way. And so, looking at the metrics on a weekly or as the activity happens, we enter that data. Now, maybe you'll go, you know what, Max, I'm not going to enter the data during the week. I'll do that in my quiet moment on a Saturday morning. Or you might, pick a Sunday afternoon, whatever suits you. But that activity that happens, what you're doing is, you've heard me say that when I'm talking to retail clients, they might say they want to do a bathroom for 15 grand. I say to them, look, based on my historical data and my experience. So the power is in the historical data, and you can't argue with somebody's experience. So guys and girls, what we're doing is we are not trapping data because Max says I've got to enter shit into a spreadsheet. No, the deal is that what I'm trying to do is grab or really harvest the data from the performance of the business today, because in 3 months from now, that data is going to help us identify a trend. And I know in some cases people go, I didn't realize how my business became such a low performing entity. And that just comes off the back of looking at the data. It does help us to see round corners. It helps us predict. If we're trapping how many leads we're getting and the value of those leads, and we need $15 million worth of leads off the back of a 20% conversion rate to hit our $3 million goal, then if we've got halfway through the year and we're only at $5 million worth of leads, it's not likely we're not going to hit $3 million. The numbers just don't stack up. So then we take the pressure off ourselves and go, okay, let's settle for $2 million, but let's drive hard in the rest of this time to be able to put contracts together in the new year, in the new financial year, so that we do hit our $3 million goal. Okay, that's a quick one. Right. So, overcoming these challenges related to time, team, and money, you want to improve the efficiency around team management, financial stability, and really what you do on a job site. That's really going to culminate in a business where you feel like you've got a lot of control and a lot less chaos, and that's exactly what we want. One of these drops every week, folks. Appreciate your time. Like and subscribe, maybe share this. If you're feeling generous, leave a bit of review. That helps us out. Get the word out there as well to other general contractors and builders that might need it. Be sure to get across and visit elitebusinessadvisory.com. And if you've got any specific questions, you can hit me up for a book a consultation, a free, no obligation, 30-minute strategic planning meeting. and of course, shoot me an email, max@elitebusinessadvisory.com. Build a kick-ass business. I'll see you in the next episode. Cheers.